Zer's pickup stopped in front of us, this hulking metal thing with a black tail of smoke. Tina kissed my head and said goodbye. The air above the truck's bonnet wiggled and blurred. The disruption of everything, of sight, sound and smell, seemed to follow Zer wherever he went. The big tyres crunched the dusty rock tracks that brought us to the cobbled streets near the centre of town. Zer didn't do up his belt. He didn't tell me to do mine. On the dashboard, St. Christopher's head nodded along to the rhythm of the road. It was on this journey, in the belly of Zer's truck, when he showed me his necklace, a dark pendant held by string, black with a green sole and grey where it was shaped. He told me Pa made it, black as a vice. He called it a figa. It was in the shape of a closed fist, the thumb tucked between the first and second finger. For the witches, he told me, smiling, mysteries oozing through the gaps in his teeth. I laughed to brush it away, laughed to humour him in this joke I thought was beneath me for my age. He said he was being serious, though. He said Tina was a witch. We drove past the castle, the engine wheezing up the medieval roads. I tried to figure out the game, if it was a game. It was impossible to know at first, but I soon came to realise belief shaped the world around him, around everyone here. Belief engulfed you. It had to. Nothing else made sense if you didn't believe. Like Ma with her bottles of water hung above the front door, or how she sweeps the dust the same way every time. Or how in London she'd throw open the windows, praying, dogs barking, boys shouting, doors closing. I asked Zer if Ma was a witch, and he laughed again in that knowing way. All women are witches, Filio. It's the good from the bad that's hard to tell. I never thought I was stupid when I lived in England. Literal things were easy to understand. It was just a matter of remembering them. Starting as a child, read the right books and work your way up, reading more of whatever authority needed me to read. That's why older people were smarter, because they'd read more. Well, the opposite was true now, with Zer, Ma, the family. What you didn't know didn't need knowing, like reading and writing. I wondered how the illiterate thought, if it was any different to me, if image replaced word and rhythm replaced meaning. We reached a straightening of the road, high above the city, where all there was olive trees. The land stretched out in a plain scattered with off-green bush and broken boulder. Zer screwed his face up as he saw something up ahead. I couldn't see completely over the dash. "Caralho," he said. We parked up next to a little wayside shrine, a miniature house, maybe a metre tall, with the front door the wall high and wide. Out of place in the sand-dust hills, among the knee-high bushes, the white house had flowers placed at it, as if someone had died there. Inside the shrine, I caught a glimpse of the pious smile of Nossa Senhora de Fatima, the Virgin Mary, a beacon on the mountainside. Her home, a white raiment for the rough ground. I wondered what came first, her or this earth around her, because it seemed to emanate from her. The bush, luscious at her feet, slowly greying and more wiry as we walked away. Then I saw why we had stopped. There was a truck, like Zez, but this one wrecked in a ditch, the bed pointing up towards us. We approached the truck from behind. A noise came to me, a deep grunting. The closer we got, the louder the grunts became, the more visceral, as if the truck was a spluttering monster breathing his last breath. The bed of the truck had come off the frame, the wooden panelling busted. We rounded the truck, staying roadside, looking down on the wreck in the ditch. And it wasn't the engine making the noise. But what we couldn't before see behind the wreck, we could now see, grunting and honking and coughing, a drift of pigs on the other side of the ditch. 8 black pigs huddled around a single point in which they lost themselves, heads bobbing. Zer hopped into the ditch, inspected the windscreen, totally shattered. Something whirred inside. Zer took the keys out of the ignition. He called for Miguel, as if he'd materialised with the call of his name, awakening from an invisible place. His eyes went from the windscreen, then out to the pigs, then back to the windscreen. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Zare tugged on the black weave. Filho de puta wasn't wearing his belt. He marched back to his truck. I was still, fixated on the grisly champing and steam rising from the animals in the fine February air. Whatever lay on the floor hypnotised them. Their chomping was a chant, some weird prayer of thanks. Then the largest pig took a few small steps backward, belly dragging on the ground, black tail whipped like a worm chopped in half. He turned and looked at me. After only seeing his black behind, his dark red face was hard to qualify. I thought he'd been painted, like they do cows, so you know whose is whose. Zare touched me on the shoulder. He slung his shotgun over his forearm and pressed a shell in each barrel. I looked up at him and he nodded. A gentleman's understanding, I supposed. I asked him if the pigs were praying. He said, "Don't be stupid. They're eating." They were eating Miguel. The fattest one was now in the dirt, scratching his back on rocks. When he got back up, the blood from his chin had run up his face in a red smile. The others kept working on Miguel. I wondered if he'd still been alive when they started. My extremities ran cold at the thought of their snapping, their dirty grey skin taut against the fat beneath. Zare gave me the shotgun and told me to shoot them if they went for me. He told me to stay on the roadside of the ditch, then jumped over. He approached the circle of pigs, the fattest one having gone back for seconds, and poised himself behind a pig with a white streak on the end of his tail. Zare yanked it, and the pig kicked, came out of the circle, then he slapped the pig on the head. He responded to Zare like he knew him, because he knew him. When the time was right, Zare kicked the pigs into the ditch. Yank, squeal, herd, kick. Then, one by one, Zare shot them between the ears. Each shot was loud, but not loud enough to fill the sky, which spread the sound thinly around them until it disappeared. The whole time, Zare muttered under his breath. He hopped back over. There was one pig caught in brambles in the ditch, too fat to run. Zare wanted me to try. I asked him why. Why did he do it in the first place? And I asked myself, why did I know it was wrong? It conjured the images I knew of Angola and Pa and newspapers with pictures from what looked like hell itself. And Ma opening the window praying, dogs barking, boys shouting, doors closing. Zare slapped me on the head and said, "Don't cry. They were eating him. If we didn't kill the pigs, Miguel would keep living inside of them, as them." After the last shot, it was silent. I got back in the truck. Craning my neck to look out the window, I saw the wayside shrine. This time, she wore a grave and downturned smile. I wondered if she was sad for what happened, or just sad with the guilt that comes along with doing what you have to do.